shadows over Vera. The twin suns of Vera burned low over the jagged plains, casting long, sharp shadows across the cracked orange soil. Dust storms rose in waves, sculpting the land into strange, alien formations that looked like frozen waves of a long-dead ocean. Vera was a harsh world, one that tested every being who dared set foot on it. Yet amidst the harshness, a figure moved with careful precision. Ryland Cade, a human ex-soldier turned salvage engineer, picked his way across the rubble-strewn valley. His eyes, human, brown and sharp, scanned the horizon constantly. Every distant glint of metal made him pause. Every whisper of wind set his instincts on edge. The aliens called him strange, even unsettling. His species hadn't been seen in living memory, only in the oldest myths and broken stories passed down by traders and scholars. Ryland's presence here wasn't just unusual, it was dangerous. He ducked behind a jagged rock as a patrol of Zilari drones passed. The Zilari were sleek, bipedal creatures with glistening silver carapaces, their eyes like shards of emerald glass. They moved with precision, communicating with clicks and high-pitched whistles that humans couldn't hear without a translator implant. Ryland pressed a palm to the ground, feeling the vibration of their steps, his heart hammering. One mistake, and his life would end before anyone even noticed. He was here for a reason, buried beneath the plains of Vera, in the ruins of the old human colony known only in legends as Origin Point, lay technology the galaxy had long believed lost. The humans had been gone for centuries, scattered by war, plague, and the slow creep of extinction. Now Ryland was returning not just as a survivor but as a finder, and what he found would shake the galaxy. The ground beneath him vibrated, faint at first, then growing stronger. Ryland froze. Not the drones, something else, something vast, alive, and ancient. The legends hadn't lied. There were things buried, here older than the Zilari themselves, things humans had left behind before vanishing. His pulse quickened. This was the moment he had been preparing for. A low rumble split the air. Rocks shook. Dust cascaded down from cliffs like miniature avalanches. From the horizon, a figure emerged, enormous, metallic, and unmistakably human in design. It was a war machine from a forgotten age, its hull scorched and pitted, yet it moved with uncanny purpose. Ryland's breath caught. The galaxy had assumed humanity had faded into myth. They had assumed wrong. As he watched, the machine paused. Its sensors flickered. And then, a voice, a human voice, echoed from the speakers embedded in the hull. "I am awake." The Zilari patrol stopped in confusion, their clicks frantic. They had never encountered this before. Legends of the ancients were dismissed as bedtime stories, fables for children to scare them into obedience. Yet here, in the harsh light of Vera's twin suns, the fables were walking again. Ryland didn't have time to react. The ground beneath him cracked open, revealing a subterranean chamber glowing with blue light. He stumbled backward as an alien guard emerged, massive, tentacled, and armored. Its four eyes glowed with an intelligence that unnerved him. Then another and another. They were here to claim the ruins, to erase any trace of human return. Ryland gritted his teeth. The stories hadn't prepared him for this. He had trained, fought, survived, but legends didn't fight back. Legends awakened. With a deep breath, he activated the energy blade strapped to his arm. Sparks danced along its edge. He had no choice but to fight. The first strike came fast. Tentacles whipped through the air, smashing into the rock. Ryland rolled, slashing upward. The alien shrieked, sound that made him shiver and fell back. But more were coming, and the ground beneath him trembled again. Something in the chamber was stirring, something old and powerful. And then he saw it. Rising from the blue glow, the ancient war machine lifted its massive arm. Its sensors locked on to the attackers. With a roar that shook the very air, it moved forward. The Zilari froze. No weapon in their arsenal could stop it, and no mind alive today had expected humanity to return like this. Rylan felt a strange pride swell in his chest. He was human, fragile, flawed, mortal, and yet here he was, standing among the ashes of an old empire, and humanity's shadow was returning. But pride came with danger. From the edge of the chamber, a new figure watched, tall, elegant, the light of the suns glinting off its crystalline skin. Its eyes burned with curiosity and caution. A Zellari officer, and something more. The galaxy had never seen anything like this, and it wasn't sure it was ready. The machine's voice boomed again, shaking the valley. "We are the ancients, and we are returning." A deafening silence followed. The patrol retreated, uncertain, terrified. But the officer did not move. Its gaze locked on Rylan. Something had changed, something had awakened. And in that silence, Rylan realized the galaxy would never expect what came next. Allies and betrayals. Rylan had little time to process the awakening of the war machine. The Zellari officer approached cautiously, clicking in a rhythm that Rylan's implant translated. "Who are you, human? Why have you returned?" "I am Rylan Cade," he said, voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "I come to reclaim what was lost, to protect what should never have been forgotten." The officer's eyes narrowed. Humans were myths, fables told to frighten children, and yet here you are. Why should I trust you? Rylan held up his hands. You shouldn't. Trust is earned, but the galaxy is in danger. The things buried. Here, they are powerful. If others find them first. He let the threat hang in the air. The officer, whose name was Lysera, studied him. Its species revered logic above all else, but it was not immune to compassion. Explain, it said finally. Rylan led Lysera to the chamber, where the ancient war machine stood dormant yet alive. Blue light pulsed across its surface, veins of energy rippling like the heartbeat of a giant. This was built by humans centuries ago, he explained. Before we disappeared, they were war machines, yes, but also protectors. We left them hidden, hoping the galaxy would forget us. But something stirred them awake. Lysera circled the machine. Its clicks were thoughtful, curious. You expect us to believe that humans long vanished could produce technology beyond the comprehension of the current galaxy? Rylan shrugged. Believe it or don't, but the galaxy is fragile. And whatever I find here, others will hunt. We need allies. That was when a transmission crackled through the ruins. Rylan froze. It was a warning, a coded message from the Saren Dominion, a ruthless human faction that had survived in secret. They had been monitoring Vera for decades, waiting for signs of human resurgence. And they were coming. Enemies, Rylan said grimly. Not just aliens, humans too. Lysera's eyes widened. Then we fight together? Rylan nodded. He didn't like it, but he had little choice. Survival demanded trust, even if temporary. The following hours blurred. Rylan, Lysera, and the ancient war machine, he had named it Aegis, prepared defenses. Using ancient schematics recovered from the ruins, Rylan reactivated dormant energy turrets, set traps, and reinforced the chamber's entryways. Lysera's intelligence was invaluable, suggesting tactics that only a species with hundreds of years of strategic experience could offer. As the suns dipped below the jagged horizon, shadows stretched long. The first attackers arrived. Saren drones, sleek and black, armed with energy disruptors and plasma rifles, skidded into position. Lysera hissed, its body glowing faintly in warning. They have underestimated you. Rylan gritted his teeth. Let's prove them wrong. The battle began with a roar. Aegis lifted a massive arm, sweeping aside the first wave of drones. Energy discharged from its hull, lighting the twilight in brilliant arcs of blue. Lysera led squads of Zellari reinforcements, their movements precise and deadly. Rylan darted, between shadows, using his environment, his ingenuity, and a few makeshift explosives to turn the tide in critical moments. But as the fighting raged, a chilling realization struck him. Saren wasn't here alone. Larger ships appeared on the horizon, massive carriers bristling with weapons. The battle was no longer just about the chamber. The war had reached Vera itself. Rylan felt the weight of history pressing down. Humanity had vanished for a reason. Yet here they were again, stepping into a galaxy that had moved on. And the galaxy wasn't ready for them. As the enemy advanced, a new voice echoed through the ruins, cold, familiar, human. "Cade," it said, "you were never meant to survive this long." Rylan froze. His blood ran cold. From the shadows emerged a figure clad in black armor, face obscured by a reflective helmet. It was the leader of Saren's forces, and he knew Rylan personally. This wasn't a battle for territory. This was personal. And just as Rylan prepared to charge, the ground beneath them shook violently. From the depths of the ruins, something far older than Aegis stirred. Something that had waited centuries for humanity's return. Its roar split the sky, and both sides froze in terror. The cliffhanger was clear. Whatever had been lying in wait beneath Vera's surface was awake. And it wasn't friendly. The awakening beneath. The roar came again, deeper this time, shaking Rylan to his core. Dust and debris fell from the chamber ceiling as a fissure cracked open, glowing with an eerie, pulsating light. Rylan's boots skidded across the broken stones as he scrambled backward, drawing his energy blade in reflex. Lysara's crystalline form shimmered with alarm, its clicks sharp and rapid. Even Aegis, the ancient war machine, paused, sensors sweeping the fissure. From the glowing chasm emerged something monumental, a structure, living and mechanical at the same time, coiling upward like a titan from a nightmare. Its surface shimmered, with human design patterns but warped by something alien, almost sentient. Blue energy arcs danced along its limbs, connecting it to the chamber floor. It breathed, or something like it did, with a pulse that made the ground vibrate beneath their feet. Rylan's mind raced. Legends never captured this. Not even the oldest human myths hinted at a force like this. The guardian of Origin Point. It was said that humanity had left protectors behind, machines capable of defense and judgment, but Rylan had never believed the stories. Now he was looking directly at one. Lysara stepped forward, trembling slightly. "It recognizes you," it said. Its click sounded almost like awe. "Why does it pause?" Rylan swallowed hard. "Because it knows me." Memories he had buried surged forth. Long nights in abandoned archives, schematics of a machine designed to awaken when its creators, or their descendants, returned. This is part of our legacy. The Saren leader, armored and cold, laughed from the chamber entrance. "Your toys won't save you, Cade. Humanity's gone, and so will you." Rylan's chest tightened. "They're not toys," he said, his voice hard. "They're guardians, and you don't get to threaten them or me anymore." Aegis's massive arm swung toward the Saren forces, and Lysara's warriors surged forward. But the guardian stirred in a different direction. Its eyes, or sensors, locked on the Saren leader. A hum filled the chamber, vibrating with raw energy. Sparks danced across the floor as the air thickened with electricity. Rylan ran forward, dodging falling, debris shouting over the roar. "Stop! Don't make it destroy everything." But the Guardian's awareness was beyond his control. It had judged the intruder, and its power was monumental. The Saren leader smirked, raising a disruptor cannon, but the Guardian moved with terrifying speed. A beam of concentrated energy struck the cannon, melting it before it could fire. The chamber shook violently. Lysara cried out, trying to warn Rylan, but he was already halfway across the broken floor, leaping over a fissure that threatened to swallow him whole. Aegis moved to block a torrent of enemy drones, smashing them into the walls with kinetic force. Sparks, smoke, and the smell of ozone filled the air, suffocating and electric all at once. Then came the sound, a deep, mechanical, almost human voice, resonant and commanding. "Cade, do you remember the oath?" Rylan froze. The oath. Something he had sworn centuries ago, or so it felt. I remember, he said, choking. I swear to protect, to return, to awaken humanity's guardians only when needed. The guardian's hum softened, lowering the energy pulse. But it didn't stop moving entirely. Instead, it coiled and extended, creating a barrier between Rylan and the Saren leader, separating friend from foe. The leader's armored figure seemed insignificant before the machine's towering presence. But Saren's forces weren't done. Reinforcements poured in from the valley entrance, larger than before. Rylan's heart sank. The chamber could only hold so many combatants, and, while the Guardian and Aegis could fend off attacks, the Saren fleet was larger than anticipated. Lysera's clicking voice filled his mind. You underestimate them. They will not retreat. Rylan swallowed, scanning the chamber for anything, any advantage. His eyes landed on a series of ancient conduits running along the walls. Aegis, he yelled, I need your help rerouting energy to the Guardian sensors. The war machine's arm whirred and nodded, or at least, that was what Rylan imagined. Its movements precise, calculated. Sparks flew as they worked in unison, human and machine, ancient and present. Lysera coordinated alien squads, flanking the intruders with unparalleled efficiency. But just as the Guardian's energy field strengthened, a new horror revealed itself. From the fissure in the floor, tendrils emerged, black and writhing, each tipped with glowing crystal points. They lashed outward, seeking any living thing in the chamber. Rylan barely dodged, feeling the air pressure tear at his clothes. Lysera hissed, directing a volley of plasma that cut through a few tendrils, but there were too many. The Saren leader laughed. You cannot control what you do not understand, Cade. They are your undoing. Rylan gritted his teeth. Maybe, but I'll die trying first. He launched himself at the nearest tendril, energy blade flashing, slicing through with the precision of someone who had survived impossible odds before. Sparks and black matter hissed as he struck again and again. Beside him, Lysera coordinated, a defense while Aegis and the Guardian fought back, the chamber shaking violently with every strike. And then, the unthinkable happened. One of the tendrils wrapped around Aegis's leg, squeezing. Metal groaned, energy arcs fizzled. Rylan screamed, racing forward. No, Aegis! He plunged his blade into the tendril's base, feeling heat and resistance surge through his arms. The Guardian roared, energy pulses flaring outward, knocking other tendrils back. But it was clear, the deeper threat was still alive beneath them, waiting, watching. And with reinforcements flooding in, Rylan realized the battle wasn't just survival. It was a war for the future of humanity itself. The chamber trembled once more, louder than before. From the deepest part of the fissure, a colossal shadowed form began to rise. Even the Guardian hesitated, sensors locking onto it with alarm. Rylan stared in horror and awe. What? What is that? Lysera's voice was trembling, almost human, in fear. Something older than any of us. The Saren leader sneered, oblivious to the true danger. Fools. Fight if you must, but you cannot stop what comes next. And in that moment, the valley itself seemed to breathe, as though the planet of Vera had awakened alongside the Guardian. The shadowed form emerged fully, massive beyond comprehension, its eyes glowing with ancient intelligence, and its presence alone silenced the battle. Rylan's blood ran cold. Humanity had returned, but something older than humanity itself had waited for this moment. The ancient reckoning. The colossal shadow rose higher, its body a jagged silhouette against the dying light of Vera's twin suns. Tendrils of blackened energy snaked outward from it, touching the chamber walls, making metal groan and hum in protest. Even Aegis, the ancient war machine, paused, its systems straining to comprehend this new threat. Rylan's heart hammered in his chest. He had fought odds far worse than this, but nothing in his memory compared to the raw, terrifying presence before him. Lysera's voice, trembling yet sharp, filled his mind. It is not just alive. It is aware. Aware? Rylan barely had time to digest the word before a pulse of energy radiated outward from the entity. The force slammed through the chamber like a tidal wave. Rocks exploded. Saren drones were flung into walls, mangled and sparking. Lysara's alien soldiers screeched in alarm, struggling to keep their footing, and Aegis stumbled, its massive legs straining against the unseen pressure. Rylan dove behind a fallen pillar, energy blade ignited. He peered over just enough to see the shadowed form. Its head, if it could be called that, turned toward him, and a low, resonant hum penetrated the chamber. It was not speech, but a communication, ancient, primal, and somehow familiar. A memory of a long-forgotten human frequency tickled the edges of his mind. He froze. Then, the Saren leader, helmet glinting in the fading light, charged forward. "This is your end, Cade," he yelled, brandishing a disruptor cannon. The shadow reacted instantly. A tendril lashed out, slamming the Saren leader into the chamber wall with a sickening crunch. Sparks flew from his armor. His scream echoed, abruptly cut off as the shadow's presence immobilized him. Rylan's breath caught. It can control them," he muttered. Lysara's clicking intensified. "It does not attack indiscriminately, it judges." Rylan realized with a chill that the shadow had not targeted him. Not yet. It recognized something. Something human. The Guardian and Aegis moved in tandem, circling him protectively, as if confirming that he was the reason for its awakening. The enormity of it hit him. He was the link between humanity and the ancient force beneath Vera. But understanding did not make survival easier. Saren forces regrouped at the chamber's entrance. Plasma bolts streaked across the floor. Sparks and energy arcs flew as Aegis deflected attacks, its massive frame absorbing hits no normal ship could endure. The Guardian, massive and alive, mirrored its movements, protecting Rylan with deliberate precision. Yet every second, the shadowed entity below stirred further, cracking the very foundations of the chamber. Rylan's mind raced. If we can't control it, if it decides humanity is a threat, the thought made him shiver. He glanced at Lysara. The alien's eyes were wide, glowing softly. "We need to communicate, or we die." He had no words. How do you reason with a being older than the galaxy itself? How do you negotiate when centuries of human myths collide with living legends? He placed a hand on the Guardian's metallic surface, feeling a faint vibration, almost like a pulse. Then he whispered, I remember why we built you. To protect, not destroy. To awaken only when humanity returned for the right reason." The Guardian hummed, acknowledging his words. Energy rippled across its body. It extended a massive arm, and tendrils that had reached toward him recoiled, retracting like obedient servants. But the Saren leader had survived. His armor flickered, damaged but functional. He pointed a plasma cannon at Rylan. "You think these toys can stop me?" The Guardian's sensors locked on him. In one swift movement, it extended a massive shield arm, blocking the cannon's fire. Energy arcs surged, ripping through the Saren troops at the edge of the chamber. Aegis moved forward, stepping into the fray, smashing the remaining drones with overwhelming force. Rylan didn't have time to breathe. He sprinted toward the control conduits along the wall, pulling levers and rerouting energy to the Guardian. Blue pulses surged like veins through the chamber, synchronizing the two ancient machines. The shadow beneath stirred again, massive and almost alive, but its movements grew more deliberate, more calculated. Lysara's clicks became urgent. "It senses your intent. Align your purpose. Show it humanity is not a threat." Rylan nodded, sweat running down his face. "We're not hunters, we're protectors." He leapt onto a broken platform, yelling as he activated a sequence of ancient control panels. Energy surged. The Guardian's eyes glowed brighter. Aegis's arms shifted, connecting with the Guardian's energy field. Together, the two ancient machines became a singular force of protection. The shadowed form recoiled, then pulsed outward as if testing them. Then, with a forceful surge, it retreated slightly into the depths. The chamber fell silent for a moment, save for the low hum of two titans. Rylan exhaled, trembling. It's listening. But peace was fleeting. From the chamber entrance, Saren reinforcements poured in, larger than ever. And then another sound reached Rylan's ears, a deep, rumbling echo, not of the Guardian, not of Aegis, but from the planet itself. The fissures in the floor began to split wider, glowing veins of energy lancing upward. Something ancient and intelligent was stirring beneath Vera. Not malevolent yet, but not neutral either. And its awakening promised change the galaxy had never seen. Rylan gritted his teeth, scanning the room. We can't just defend. We have to strike. And we have to reach the core before they do. Lysara's eyes widened. You want to go inside? Where even the Guardian hesitates? Rylan nodded. If we don't, the galaxy will never forgive us. And neither will history. The Guardian hummed, extending a platform from its massive body. Aegis moved to shield them. Rylan glanced at Lysara, who nodded. Together, human and alien, they stepped onto the platform. Tendrils of light and energy surged below as the Guardian's power synchronized with theirs, stabilizing a path downward. The fissure yawned wider, revealing a tunnel that plunged into darkness, pulsating with blue energy. The faint outlines of ancient structures long buried shimmered inside. It was alive. It was breathing. And it was waiting for them. Rylan swallowed hard. We go now, or we never get the chance again. As they descended into the ancient depths, the Saren leader raised his weapon, screaming in fury. But before he could fire, the Guardian slammed its massive arm down between them, blocking the line of fire. Sparks and energy erupted, and in the echoing darkness below, the true heart of humanity's legacy awaited, a power the galaxy had thought lost forever. Heart of the Ancients, the tunnel beneath Vera stretched endlessly, pulsating with a blue light that seemed alive, almost sentient. Every step Rylan took sent vibrations up through his boots. The air was thick with energy, charged like a storm waiting to break. The Guardian and Aegis flanked him and Lysara, their immense forms illuminating the ancient passage. This place, Lysara whispered, clicking softly. It's not just a machine. It's a city. A memory. A vessel of humanity itself. Rylan's pulse quickened. He had heard legends of Origin Point, the first human colony on Vera, but nothing in the archives hinted at a hidden infrastructure like this. An entire subterranean civilization, built not just for survival, but for legacy. Columns of metal and crystal soared overhead, etched with symbols older than any known star map. Rylan's fingers brushed one of the carvings. It thrummed beneath his touch, as if alive. Aegis's servos hummed, sensors sweeping every corridor. The Guardian's glowing eyes scanned ahead, locking onto a massive chamber deep within the tunnels. That's where it is, Rylan said. The core, the heart of Origin Point. But the Saren leader was not idle. He had followed, dragging his forces through the tunnels with reckless abandon. The first ambush struck without warning, drones, and armed troops flanking from side corridors firing plasma and disruptor beams. Rylan rolled to the side, energy blades slashing through a drone. Sparks erupted, illuminating his grim expression. Lysara's squad moved with precision, flanking enemies and firing carefully, but the Saren forces were relentless. Aegis swung its massive arms, smashing drones against the tunnel walls. The Guardian, synchronized with Aegis's movements, unleashed waves of protective energy, sending attackers flying. Rylan's chest heaved as he activated an ancient control panel. Symbols glowed beneath his fingers, sending a pulse through the Guardian. Tendrils of energy lashed out, knocking enemies off their feet. The humans had built this system not just as defense but as an extension of themselves. But even as the battle raged, a new threat emerged. The very walls of the tunnels began to pulse and shift. Sections of the ancient city stirred, moving as if alive. The blue energy coalesced into massive constructs, shapes humanoid and alien at once, formed from living metal. They rose to block the intruders. Rylan froze. It's judging them, not us. The Saren leader screamed in frustration. Stand your ground, kill the humans! But the constructs moved with precision, knocking aside weapons and drones without harming Rylan or Lysara. It was clear. The core recognized only those it deemed worthy. Humanity, or its last descendant, was the key. Rylan moved quickly, dodging, falling debris and disabled drones, leading Lysara deeper into the labyrinth. We're close, he said, voice tight. The heart of Origin Point is just ahead. If we reach it, we control the Guardian's full power. Lysara glanced at him, her crystalline eyes wide. Control? You think the Ancients will let you control them? Rylan gave a short, grim smile. Not control, trust. They trust us because we're human. That's all that matters. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. The ceiling arched high above, encrusted with glowing blue crystal. At the center stood a pedestal, and on it pulsed a sphere of pure energy. The core. It hummed, radiating warmth and power, as if it had waited for centuries just for this moment. Rylan stepped forward, hand extended. The Guardian's massive arm moved to support him, and the sphere pulsed brighter in response. A hum filled the chamber, vibrating through every bone in his body. And then, the core spoke. Not with words, but with thoughts clear and resonant in Rylan's mind. Child of humanity, you are returned. Why? Rylan swallowed. Because we were needed. Because we left but never truly vanished. And now the galaxy is in danger. I seek not war but balance. I seek not conquest, but protection. The core pulsed again, energy rippling through the chamber. The constructs halted, their movements synchronized with the Guardian and Aegis. Rylan felt a strange warmth, a connection, an ancient lineage bridging centuries. Humanity had left its mark, and now it was responding. But the moment of hope shattered. From the far entrance, the Saren leader appeared, staggering through the constructs that had blocked him. He raised his weapon, firing directly at Rylan. Rylan reacted instinctively. The Guardian raised a protective shield around him, absorbing the blasts. Sparks and energy arcs danced across the dome. But the Saren leader grinned, throwing down a small device, a disruptor bomb, designed to destabilize energy fields. No, Rylan shouted. If that hits the core! The Guardian's sensors flared. Aegis swung to intercept the device, smashing it with immense force. The disruptor exploded harmlessly against its metal frame, but the explosion triggered a reaction in the core. Energy arcs leapt outward, shaking the chamber violently. Rylan fell to his knees as blue light washed over him. The core's hum grew, louder, almost deafening. He could feel the history of humanity, the collective knowledge and ingenuity flooding into him. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, but also terrifying. Then the core pulsed once more, and the Saren leader froze. His body stiffened, eyes wide beneath his visor. Impossible, he muttered. The core's voice filled the chamber, resonant and commanding. You threaten what you do not understand. Leave or be erased. The Saren leader staggered backward, his troops retreating in fear. The constructs moved with deliberate precision, guiding the intruders out. Rylan rose to his feet, chest heaving, sweat and grime covering him. Lysara's voice was trembling with awe. You did it. The core? It accepted you. Rylan looked around at the Guardian, at Aegis, at the constructs, and then at the energy sphere that was the heart of humanity's lost legacy. It's not about me, he said softly. It's about what we built, what humans built. And now, we can return it to the galaxy. But as he spoke, the chamber shuddered violently. A low growl echoed from the depths. The pulse of energy from the core was not just awakening, it was calling something else, something bigger, something older than even the Guardian. Ryland's stomach dropped. Lysara, we're not done yet. The echoes of war. The signal pulsed outward, invisible yet undeniable, racing through the void of space like a heartbeat. Ryland felt it in his bones before Lysara did. The core's awakening had alerted something older, something beyond the galaxy's recorded history. Even the Guardian and Aegis trembled slightly, sensing the approach of a force that dwarfed them. Both, outside Vera's sky was darkening unnaturally. The twin sun's light flickered as if struggling against some shadow. Massive shapes began appearing on the horizon, ships, enormous and alien, unlike anything the galaxy had catalogued. Their hulls shimmered with a black energy that distorted, light moving with terrifying precision. Ryland's pulse quickened. They're responding, Lysara said, her voice tight with alarm. Not Saren, something else. Aegis's massive frame shifted, sensors scanning the horizon. The Guardian moved to the forefront, energy shield pulsating in response to distant disturbances. Ryland's eyes narrowed. They were outnumbered. Outclassed but not outwitted. He turned to Lysara. We use the core. Its power is ours now. It can protect Vera and us, but we have to strike decisively. The Saren leader had not given up. His surviving troops regrouped, their plasma rifles and disruptors ready. You may have your toys, Cade, he spat, voice shaking with fury, but we have strategy, experience, and the will to end you. Ryland shook his head. You still don't understand. This isn't about you. It's about the galaxy and humanity's return. The first wave of alien ships descended, bristling with weapons far beyond Saren's arsenal. Their energy pulses hit the surface, sending shockwaves through the plains. Lysara barked orders, rallying her Zalari soldiers. The Guardian extended its arms, creating a dome of energy to shield Ryland and the core. Aegis unleashed volleys of kinetic strikes, tearing through incoming forces. Ryland moved quickly to the core, his hands tracing the glowing sphere. Focus it, guide it, use it. Memories of human engineering, strategies, and history surged into his mind. The core responded, energy arcs lancing outward, forming a protective lattice over the valley. The alien ships recoiled, their hulls sparking from the intensity. Saren's leader saw his advantage slipping. Fall back, he shouted, but it was too late. The core's energy surged in a pulse, creating a gravitational distortion that immobilized the ships above. Their black energy flickered, then stabilized. Ryland realized the core wasn't just a weapon. It was a shield, a judge, a force that could manipulate reality itself. But victory was fleeting. From the fissures beneath Vera, the ancient entity stirred, the one older than the Guardian. Its voice, a resonant growl, echoed in Ryland's mind. Humans, why have you returned? Ryland's heart pounded. Because the galaxy needs us, because we endure, and because we remember. The entity's response was a pulse of energy that shook the planet. Rocks exploded. The Guardian and Aegis struggled to maintain stability. Lysara cried out, shielding herself against the shockwave. Ryland knew what had to be done. He had trained, fought, and survived countless battles, but this was different. This was diplomacy through action, understanding through courage. He stepped forward, extending his hands, and projected the human intent he had honed for decades. We are protectors, not conquerors. We are here to restore balance, not claim dominion. The entity paused. Its massive form shimmered, tendrils of shadow folding inward. Then slowly, it receded into the depths, as if judging Ryland worthy, or at least acceptable. The core's glow stabilized, spreading warmth instead of destructive pulses. Ryland exhaled, trembling. It's listening, and it hasn't destroyed us. But the battle was far from over. Saren forces regrouped for one final push, desperate and furious. Their disruptor cannons charged, aiming for the core itself. Ryland turned to Lysara. We end this together. Guardian, Aegis, full synchronization. Now. Energy arcs shot outward, weaving between the two ancient machines. The core's power surged into them, amplifying their strength 100-fold. The Saren leader's cannon fired, but it was too slow. The Guardian struck first, a massive sweep of energy obliterating the lead squad. Aegis followed, smashing the remaining drones with crushing force. The Saren leader tried to flee, but the core pulsed again, locking onto him. Tendrils of energy restrained him, forcing him to the ground. Rylan approached, energy blade in hand. "It's over," he said, voice calm but resolute. "Leave Vera, or face the consequences." The Saren leader's eyes blazed with hatred, but he understood the futility. Slowly he signaled retreat, and the remaining forces withdrew into the horizon. Silence fell over the valley. The Guardian and Aegis stood at attention, the core glowing softly between them. Lysara approached Rylan, her click subdued, almost reverent. You changed the galaxy today," she said. "Not just Vera, but everyone who will come after. Humans are not gone. You're here, and you're not what they feared." Rylan looked at the core, then the Guardian, then Aegis. "We were never gone," he said softly. "We were waiting, and now, the galaxy will finally remember who we were, and who we can be." But even as peace settled over the battlefield, a faint pulse resonated from deep beneath the planet. Something ancient still slept, watching, calculating. The galaxy had seen humanity return, but the echoes of war and the awakening of forces older than stars were only just beginning. Humanity's return. The valley of Vera lay in silence, the twin suns setting in streaks of crimson and gold. Dust drifted lazily across shattered rocks, shimmering in the fading light. The battle had ended, but the air still crackled with residual energy, the faint hum of the core and the Guardian echoing like a heartbeat. Rylan Cade stood atop a ridge overlooking the chamber, exhaustion and relief battling for dominance in his chest. Beside him, Lysara's crystalline form glimmered softly, no longer tense, no longer scanning for threats. Aegis and the Guardian remained vigilant, massive shadows against the glowing horizon. Guardians of a legacy humanity had thought. Thus Rylan let out a deep breath. "We did it," he said softly, though even he knew that words could barely capture the weight of the moment. Humanity had returned, not just as survivors, but as architects of something the galaxy had long forgotten. Ingenuity, resilience, and a willingness to protect rather than dominate. Lysara's clicking voice, gentle and reflective, answered. "The galaxy bot will remember this, not as a myth, not as a legend, but as reality. Humanity is here again." Rylan shook his head. "They'll remember, yes, but we have to show them what that means. Our compassion, our ingenuity, our ability to adapt. That's what makes us human." Aegis lowered its massive arm, and the Guardian's energy pulse dimmed slightly, as if acknowledging Rylan's words. He walked toward the core, placing his hands on the glowing sphere. Memories surged again. The engineers, soldiers, and pioneers who had built Origin Point. Their dreams, their struggles, their hope. It was all alive in the core, a living testament to what humanity could achieve. Rylan spoke softly, almost a prayer. "We return not to conquer, not to fight, but to remind the galaxy that there's more than strength in weapons. There's strength in trust, in knowledge, and in compassion." Lysara stepped forward, touching the core's edge. "And they will see it. Not just the Saren, not just the Zilleri. Everyone. Humanity has come back." From the depths of the tunnels, a faint tremor passed through the ground. The ancient entity that had awakened earlier stirred, but this time it moved differently, not with aggression, but with recognition. It had witnessed humanity's intent, their courage and their wisdom. For the first time in millennia, it seemed approving. Rylan felt a strange warmth wash over him. The galaxy had feared humans for their destructive potential, but here, on Vera, they had proven something greater. The power of choice. To protect. To create. To endure. Aegis shifted. kneeling slightly to allow Rylan access to the core's interface. Symbols glowed beneath his fingers, ancient scripts translating into simple directives. He could expand the core's influence, rebuild Origin Point, and even communicate with distant human enclaves if any remained. But most importantly, he could use the core to heal what had been broken, to create alliances rather than fuel conflict. The Sarin leader, somewhere on the horizon, had been defeated, not killed, but humbled. He would retreat, but the story of humanity's return would reach him, and with it, the undeniable proof that humans were not to be underestimated. Rylan turned to Lysara. "This is just the beginning. We have work to do. Rebuilding trust, forging alliances, ensuring the galaxy knows that humans are back, not as conquerors, but as partners." Lysara's voice was filled with quiet admiration. "You carry the weight of your entire species, Rylan. And yet, you do it with humility. That is what makes you human." The twin suns sank below the jagged horizon, and the Valley of Vera was bathed in twilight. Energy pulses from the core danced across the landscape, illuminating the ruins of centuries-old structures. It was a beacon, not of war, but of hope. Rylan stepped back, his gaze lingering on the Guardian and Aegis. Together, they formed a triangle of protection, a symbol of humanity's ingenuity and resilience. And though the galaxy had yet to fully grasp the magnitude of their return, Rylan knew this. Humanity had awakened once more, and this time, no one would forget. From deep below, a faint pulse echoed, almost like a heartbeat, reminding Rylan that even older forces watched, patient and calculating. The galaxy was vast and the threats were many, but for the first time in centuries humanity had a place among the stars, not as a footnote, but as a force to be reckoned with. Rylan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history and the light of possibility in equal measure. "We were the ancients," he whispered, "and now we are here again." The Guardian's eyes glowed one final time, the core pulsing in rhythm, and Aegis stood tall, a sentinel for humanity's legacy. Vera's wind swept across the plains, carrying dust and hope alike, and somewhere beyond the stars, the galaxy began to take notice. The story ended not with finality, but with promise. Humanity had returned. They were ancient. They were alive. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Epilogue. Hint of future adventures. Across the stars, signals flickered in response to the core's activation. Long-lost human enclaves stirred. Alien civilizations debated cautiously. The Sarin, Dominion would recover, but they now knew the truth. Humans were not gone. Humanity's ingenuity, compassion, and resilience had returned, not as a whisper of myth, but as a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. And somewhere, deep in the void, ancient watchers observed, calculating, waiting for the next move. Rylan smiled faintly, sheathing his energy blade. "Let them come," he said softly. "We're ready." The galaxy, vast and full of unknowns, was about to witness the true return of humanity.